Chess is one of the oldest games in the world. Easy to learn, but impossible to master. Every player, from the very first pawn move to the moment they compete against the best in the world, passes through different stages of skill and understanding. Today, we are going to explore 5 levels of chess players, from beginners, just learning the rules, all the way to the ultimate level, represented by none other than Magnus Carlsen. We will dive into what defines each stage, common habits and real examples that show the difference. Every chess journey begins with the basics, how the pieces move, the layout of the board, and the ultimate goal, checkmating your opponent's king. At this stage, a beginner might know that bishops move diagonally and rooks move in straight lines, but they might forget that the pawn moves differently when capturing. Special rules like castling or en passant can feel mysterious or even unnecessary. Beginners often fall into the same traps, leaving pieces undefended, missing obvious threats, or thinking only about their own moves instead of their opponents'. For example, they might move their queen out early, only to lose it to a simple fork from a knight. The focus here isn't on winning tournaments, but on learning the fundamentals, how to checkmate with a king and a queen, how to protect your pieces, and how to avoid hanging material. It's like learning to walk before you can run. Every master once moved their pawns without much of a plan. Level 2. Amateur. The amateur has played enough games to understand that development and king safety are important. They might know that it's risky to move the same piece multiple times in the opening, or that bringing the knights and bishops out early gives them more control. Amateurs start to recognize basic tactics, for example forks, pins or skewers, and can sometimes set them up on purpose. However, calculation is still shallow, maybe 1 or 2 moves ahead. Under time pressure, blunders still happen often. An amateur might learn an opening, like the Italian game, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, without fully understanding why it works. Against other amateurs, this can lead to quick wins, but against more experienced players, their plans can collapse quickly. At this level, progress often comes from studying simple tactical puzzles and learning to think, what is my opponent threatening, before making a move. Level 3. Club Player. Club players, often rated between 1200 and 1800 ELO, know their way around the chessboard. They have a handful of openings they're comfortable with, understand the importance of pawn structure, and can create basic middle game plans. If you play a club player, you will notice fewer blunders. They calculate 3 to 5 moves ahead and can punish obvious mistakes. They start to think in terms of long-term weaknesses, like double pawns or control of an open file. For example, a club player might deliberately trade down into an endgame where their rook can dominate the 7th rank. They've studied key endgames, king and pawn versus king, rook and king checkmates, and know when a game is winning or drawing. However, they can still misjudge highly complex positions, especially when multiple plans seem possible. The difference between a club player and a master isn't just tactics, it's consistency and depth of understanding. Level 4. Master. A master, such as Faustino Oro, shown in this picture, has not only studied thousands of hours of chess, but has also played in many competitive events. At this level, opening preparation becomes a weapon. A master doesn't just know the first 10 moves of the Sicilian defense. They know the traps, the middle game plans, and the endgames that are likely to result from it. Masters combine calculation and intuition seamlessly. They can visualize a position many moves ahead, even when pieces are still on their starting squares. They don't just see tactics, they create them. For example, In a famous game between Garry Kasparov and Vasilij Topalov in 1999 in Wagon Z, Kasparov sacrificed his rook in the middle of the game, a move that looked insane to most, but it led to a forced sequence that ended in a beautiful checkmate. That's the kind of vision a master brings. They also excel in exploiting small inaccuracies. If you make one slightly awkward knight move, a master might maneuver for 20 moves until that small weakness becomes fatal. And then there's level 5, Magnus Carlsen. There's the top of the mountain, the ultimate level, represented by Magnus Carlsen. With a peak rating of nearly 2,900 ELO and multiple World Chess Championship titles, Carlsen has been dominating the chess world for more than a decade. What makes Carlsen special isn't just his opening preparations or tactical skill, although both are world-class. It's his ability to win in positions that others would call equal. He squeezes out tiny advantages and applies relentless pressure until his opponents crack. In the 2019 World Blitz Championship, for example, Carlsen turned what looked like a completely drawn rook endgame into a win by setting subtle traps and forcing his opponent into time travel. Carlsen's adaptability is also unmatched. He can play deep theoretical openings against top grandmasters, but also beat them in quiet, slow positions where patience is key. He's not just a tactician or a strategist, he's both, at the very highest level. For most of us, Magnus Carlsen's level is unreachable, but understanding how he thinks inspires players at every stage. Learning how the knight moves, to playing a world champion, every stage of chess has its own challenges and joys. Wherever you are on your chess journey, remember, every master was once a beginner, and every beginner can improve with practice. Whether you're playing for fun, competing at your local club, or dreaming of the big stage, enjoy the process. The board is ready. Your move.